A manufacturing company with government contracts was subject to assessments on assessed earnings based on the renegotiations board split. Earnings and inventories were significantly overstated by a different CPA company. A jury found the auditor guilty, but the court overturned the verdict because there was insufficient proof that the CPA company knew about the inaccuracy.
A manufacturer of electronic device overstated inventory by 30% in order to help itself acquire new companies. Concerning the auditors, the court ruled that sufficient recklessness could be a basis of a 10b5 ruling, but since the auditors had knowledge of the act, there was no reason to prove sufficient recklessness.
In this case, the civil liability is under the securities laws. The bad judgment isn't a proof of the fraud in a later lawsuit under a Rule 10b5. This point of view seems to be against support in the courts. In this case, the auditor's careless action was sufficient to subject the auditor to liability. However, two significant non-secret court rulings were of Wonder 1994 and the Software 1994 disagree.
The auditor defense under the Securities Exchange Act of 1934 are the same as under common law, which is non-negligence performance, lack of duty, and absence of causal connection. The audit firms claims that the audit was performed in accordance with auditing standards. They also claims that the misstatements of the reports were not uncovered, and the Solitron must be able to prove if there are failure to follow the auditing standards.
The principle highlighted in the case of Howard Sirota vs. Solitron Devices Incorporation 1982 is Rule 10b5, which focuses on auditor liability litigation under the Act 1934 Act. In this case, the Court of Appeals ruled that the auditor's reckless behavior was sufficient to hold the auditor liable for a violation of Rule 10b5.
If an auditor is aware of fraudulent activity but does nothing further to investigate it, they are acting irresponsibly. Even though there is a lack of scienter on the part of the auditor, they will still be held responsible for gross negligence under the 1934 Act. The federal government indicted Arthur Anderson in March 2002 for impeding justice. The indictment claimed that Arthur Anderson wiped computer files and shredded papers linked to its audit client Enron, even though it knew civil action and government investigations were coming. The SEC subpoena stopped Arthur Anderson from deleting Enron papers, according to the indictment.
Government charged chartered public accountant firm with destruction of documents related to the firm's audit of a company. The company tipped off the firm and the firm shredded an extensive amount of evidence by the time a subpoena was issued, ultimately charged with obstruction of justice. Anderson no longer able to audit public companies, later reversed because instructions were too broad.
In this case, the criminal liability is for accountants. The criminal liability describes the circumstances in which someone can be held accountable for breaking the law. In this instance, Anderson allegedly deleted and altered documents relating to the company's audit of Enron, and the government accused the accounting firm of obstructing justice.
The auditor defense of this case is absence of causal connection. This is where Enron must be able to prove that there is connection between Anderson's failure to follow the auditing standards and the damages suffered by Enron.
The principle that focused from the case of United States vs. Anderson 2002 is Sarbanes-Oxley Act of 2002. According to the case, it was related to that act in which the government charged Anderson with obstructing justice for destroying and altering documents related to its audit of Enron.
In 2001, Enron's financial difficulties were brought into the public eye. Anderson gave the order to his employees to destroy any documents that were related to Enron. He was accused of knowingly persuading other people to alter and withhold documents during an official proceeding. In the end, Arthur Anderson was wrongfully convicted because his actions and his intentions were not adequately described.